I work with a group of 4 women lawyers. We call ourselves the Jagdalpur Legal Aid Group. We work in Bastar. Why we chose Bastar and the reasons for it is what you're going to understand over the next couple of minutes. So I will start with the story of this woman, Marvi Hungi. I'm using another name for her because I can't use her real name. She was 18 in January 2008 when she was taking her 2 younger cousins to a village fair, and the police picked her up. From January 2008 to March 2008, she was shunted from one police station to the other, brutally tortured, sexually abused. She was only produced before the magistrate in March 2008. As per the law, if the police arrest someone, they are supposed to produce that person before the magistrate within 24 hours. But then breaking the law at every step by the police is the law itself in Chhattisgarh. So in March 2008, Marvi is finally produced before the magistrate. Today, Marvi is 26 years old, about the same age as me. And till December last year, her trial was still going on. And for 6 years, her trial was still going on. During these 6 years in jail, Marvi had to go, Marvi's uterus collapsed because of the torture that she had undergone during those 2 months. And she had to undergo a hysterectomy operation, because of which she was in constant pain during those 6 years. She was in constant depression. She would throw up every time she had to go to the court. And till December, the trial just kept stretching, and the trial just kept stretching for 6 years. And finally, in December, the trial was over. It was realized there's absolutely no evidence against her. No one came to testify against her. And then since January this year, we've been trying to push the judge that give the judgment now, because once you give the judgment, she'll be free. And she was only set free, like the judge only gave the judgment in April, which is this month, earlier this month. Because for the last 4 months, the judge just kept saying, इतने साल जेल में रहिए तो क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, थोड़ी और देर रह लगी. I mean, that's the level of dehumanization to which we put the Adivasi population there. And Marvi is not the only one. She's one amongst the tens of thousands of people languishing in jails in Bastar. No one should be deprived of his right to life and liberty except by procedure established by law. Article 21, Constitution of India. One of the fundamental tenets of the Constitution of India and one of the basic founding features of our democracy. But what if this procedure established by law, or due process as the Supreme Court interprets it, is stormed and violated at every step? Out of a sanctioned capacity of 3,45,000 prisoners, India's jails house about 3,85,000 prisoners. So there's an over-occupancy rate of about 112%. Not so bad. But India's jails are supposed to be overcrowded. Chhattisgarh is the state which is notorious for the last 5 years for having the most overcrowded jails in the country. And Chhattisgarh is the only state in India which has exceeded overcrowding rate above 200%. The overcrowding rate in Chhattisgarh is 250%. So that means that for this capacity of 100 people in the jail, there are actually 250 people in jail. But that's okay, because Chhattisgarh, the data for Chhattisgarh is for the state as a whole. If you look at South Chhattisgarh, which is where Bastar is, the data is alarming. There are 3 jails in South Chhattisgarh: Kanker, Dantewada and Jagdalpur. In Kanker, against a sanctioned capacity of 65, as per the 2012 NCRB data, the number of prisoners in jail were 278. Almost an overcrowding rate of 400%. But that was 2012. Ever since the change of the government in center, since 2014 June, the war has intensified. And today, the overcrowding rate is as high as 650% in Kanker jail. So for a capacity of 100 people, there are actually 650 people in jail. The under trials, they sleep in shifts because there's no place to sleep. In Dantewada, that's the same situation. For a sanctioned capacity of 150 people, it actually has about 400 people. That it had in 2012. In Dantewada today also, the rate of overcrowding is as high as 600%. For Jagdalpur jail, the data is somewhat similar to the state average, which is 250%. So what is the deal? Is it that the jails have a very little capacity? Is it that they are arresting too many people? We try to analyze that data also. So in India, for every per lakh of population, there is a jail built for 28% of the population. But there's a 34% of the population per lakh of population that is actually residing in these jails. So there's an overcrowding difference of 6%. That they have a capacity for 28% per lakh, but there's a 34% per lakh of population that is residing in these jails. In Dantewada, if you look at it, for the capacity of jails is 28%, which is the same as the national average. But the population per lakh that is residing in jails is 81%. We've criminalized the very existence of an entire section of citizenship of this country. And we talk about socially inclusive change, so we've just criminalized their very existence. We looked at why this was happening, why such high rate of incarceration. So who is an under trial? An under trial is a person whose trial is still going on and he hasn't been convicted. So it's not sure whether he's committed that crime or not. And one of the fundamental tenets of any criminal justice system is innocent until proven guilty. That everybody is innocent until you prove that they are guilty. So if you look at Jagdalpur, if you look at the national data, that for every one person who's acquitted, every one under trial who's acquitted, 16.6 people get bail. So 16.6 people get bail and 21% of the under trials are in jail as per national data. If you look at Dantewada data, for every one person that is acquitted, 0.87 people get bail. So basically nobody gets bail. 100% of the under trial population is in jail in Dantewada. Bail, which is supposed to be a matter of right, is not even a rare exception in Dantewada. So what happens, and the trial keeps stretching. Once you are arrested, the process of dehumanization starts. And then the person is stripped of every layer of his identity till he becomes a mere number in a file. He might be an FIR number, a prisoner number, the number of years he spent in jail. And then, like every government file, it also goes through a lot of wear and tear. It is forgotten, it is put in shelves, till it comes out, like if it's lucky, it comes out in 2 or 3 months for every court hearing, wherein also it's assigned another number, which is the next date of his hearing. The witnesses, which are police witnesses, do not turn up. These are government witnesses and they don't turn up for 3. We have cases wherein the state doctor hasn't turned up for 3 years and the guy is languishing. This is his 7th year in jail and his trial is still going on. We still don't know whether he's committed that crime or not. And there is no other evidence against him. But for 3 years, there's no testimony because the doctor is not coming. If the police witnesses turn up, then the judge is on vacation. If the judge is not on vacation, then they don't bring the prisoners from the jail. So that cycle keeps on going and the trial keeps extending. And during this time, these are also some of the poorest sections of the country, some of the poorest areas of the country. And all the jails and the courts are miles away. Sometimes it takes 2 days from the village to reach the court. So the families lose hope. They stop coming, and they've like put initially they give all their savings for to the lawyers for the legal fees of these people, and then the whole money to come to the court is spent, so they lose all their savings over the years. And then you also see situations wherein the jails are overcrowded but they are short staffed. Even they are below their sanction capacity. They don't have medical staff as per their sanction capacity. So we have a case of a guy called Bhima Karti. He was picked up when he was 19. And Bhima's wife just gave birth to a son at the time when he was picked up. His whole family relied on him for money. He had a 10-year-old brother. 7 cases were slapped on Bhima. Today, he was picked up in 2010. Today, Bhima stands acquitted of all the charges. But that doesn't come as a relief to his family. Because in 2012, Bhima passed away in jail because of massive medical negligence on part of the jail authorities, the hospital staff, that couldn't control his malaria in time. And that's not the only case. In the last 1 year itself, I've seen 2 cases of Kanker jail wherein 2 people have died because of diarrhea. These are under trials. These are not people who've committed that crime. Another case of Sudhar. He was also a 21-year-old boy. He was the first person in his family who was first person in his village to clear the class 12th exams, and he was a teacher in the school. So when they picked him up, they slapped 13 cases on him. Today he stands acquitted of all the charges, but his family has no savings once he's gone back. And because of the tag of being an accused Naxalite, he cannot get his old job back. These are all young people, picked up at a very young age. I remember when I was 18, and my last 6 years have been probably the best years of my life, making new friendships, discovering new academic avenues. And I think that's true for all of you, sensing freedom for the first time, getting out of your homes. But for the entire young population in Bastar, being young is actually something that makes them more vulnerable at being targeted by the police for all these forged cases. For all these forged cases. So now, another thing that we try to understand is that what happens to these cases. So we try to understand the Dantewada court register. Between 2005 to 2012, the acquittal rate ranged from 93% to as high as 99%. Almost 99% of these people got acquitted. On an average, almost all of them spent 3 to 4 years in jail. So most of them basically lost all the prime years of their life in jail and then got acquitted. What we are trying to say here, I'm not saying that we are not at war. We are at war, yes. But when we are criminalizing an entire section of the population, we need to question who that war, who that security is really about. It is we, the people of India. It's not we, the territory of India. And if we cannot give that sense of security to those people of India, then we really need to question if that war is being fought for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons. I'm going to just end with something that I wrote about my experiences in Bastar over the last one and a half year. And it captures everything from the horror of Salwa Judum, which is the civil war that was eventually declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So Salwa Judum happened from 2005 to 2008, wherein villages were desecrated, houses burnt, women were raped, massive violence, many were killed, to the incarceration that is going on right now, to the daily killings that happen in terms of encounters and stuff. Time stops in Bastar. It doesn't heal, because it too has been wounded by the rebellions of those in red and the security of those in green. It weeps at Chitrakoot. It is called upon year after year by captive innocents, but it lies caged in courtrooms, charge sheets and challans. It is grieved in the memory of disappearing fathers, in burnt houses and brutalized bodies. As the childhood lost innocence, it hopes for maturity to arrive. The screams of desecrated women, withering in pain, make it shiver. But it too has been looted of hope and happiness. It twinges alone in the dark. Yet it persists, escaping decay in a false optimism. To preserve what's left, through deceit and broken promises, it searches for the truth. Its celebrations sing songs of the gun. Its mourning dances to a mad brutality. It stops in Bastar, for it can no longer heal. Thank you.